Poppy Moore, 16.3, Coaching Session Review and Development Plan. At the start of the planning, my partner and I had these 3 aims for the kids. To be able to hit the ball consistently 5 times in a row. To be able to throw a ball far and catch it. To be able to throw it accurately. These targets are linked into our batting and fielding game, which is rounders, because the first one links to the batting aspect of the game, aiming to increase the kids' accuracy. The second links to the fielding aspect of the game, because if the ball is hit far, then the fielders must be able to throw it far enough to the ball to be put back in play. This also links with the third aim because although the participants will be able to throw far, it doesn't help the team if the ball isn't anywhere near where it needs to be. For example, if a fielder was to throw the ball with the intention of it reaching fourth but instead reaches second, then this adds to the amount of time the batter has to get around the bases. In order to enhance the guarantee that the aims are achieved my partner and I made a few objectives in order for us to subconsciously check that we are on the right track. The first objective links in with the second aim and the fielding component of the game. We chose this objective because it would show the progressiveness of the group. The other 2 objectives link into the batting element of the game and our aims because they are focusing on accuracy and also getting the most rounders. When planning a session, it is important to ensure that a risk assessment is done. A risk assessment is a systematic process of evaluating the potential risk that may be involved in a projected activity. It is done to identify any risk that may come to the participants when the session is being taught, and allows the instructor to weigh up the risk in order to see whether or not the session is safe enough to do. When making a risk assessment, there are 5 key things to consider. 1. Identify the hazards. For example, my partner and I started off by looking at participants' health, for example, asthma, diabetes, hay fever, or any disabilities, and how we could help to prevent anything triggering them, or how we could cope with them if they occurred. We then went on to looking at the environment, for example, slippery surfaces, because it might have been raining or too hot, which can lead to dehydration, litter on the pitch, faulty equipment, not the right clothing, and looking at how we would prevent them and handle them if they occurred. Secondly, you need to identify who the hazards are going to affect and how. In addition to this, you need to evaluate the risks and decide on control measures, i.e. if the hazards were litter on the pitch, the instructor could go around the pitch before the session to check for any litter. Fourthly, the instructor needs to record the findings and implement them, for example, the table I created above. Finally, the instructor will need to ensure they have reviewed the assessment and updated it if necessary. When planning the warm-up, my partner and I decided on doing 4 activities. The first one was beat the ball, which is where you divide the group into 2 teams, and one team stands on the post and throws the ball around in a circle. The other team has to run outside the post and beat the ball round back to the person. This got their pulses raised and also allowed them to get used to the pitch, ensuring that they knew the shape and begun to work in a team. The first activity also allowed the participants to get used to throwing the ball using an underarm technique, because that technique is used when bowling the ball. The second activity was the icebreaker. The icebreaker was the icebreaker, which is where they stand in a circle and throw the ball around, asking them what their names were and their hobbies and things like that. The icebreaker will also allow me and Toby to identify which participants are more confident than others. The icebreaker included different throwing techniques so that participants get used to using different techniques when throwing the ball. This is because during a rounder game, bowling, if the bowler has to use an underarm technique, whereas a deep fielder has to use an overarm technique in order to get the ball further down the pitch. To try and prevent injuries, the third activity will be a routine of stretches around the field. During this routine, Toby will ask a different child to pick a stretch, or the group to do which. Pick a stretch, or the group to do which will keep them engaged and interested because they are going to be asked what they want to do instead of being told the whole time. The stretches that are going to be done will be linked to the sport by ensuring that all major muscle groups that are going to be used during the session are stretched and loosened in order to prevent injury. The final warm-up activity is a DVD game, and this is when they are in a certain area, and certain things mean certain parts of a DVD. For example, pause, play, rewind, and forward equal different things. If I say pause, they have to stop. If I say play, they jog. If I say rewind, they jog backwards. If I say fast forward, then they sprint. My partner and I chose the DVD game because it is fun and engaging for the children, and also speaks their language because a lot of them own electronics and video games. On the other hand, it isn't quite as relevant to the game as the others. However, it does get them used to working, to listening and being alert. Before each activity, my partner and I will explain the instructions of the activity as clearly as possible and answer any queries about the activity to ensure that they know what is being asked of them. The first activity is a batting activity. This activity links into the sport because it focuses on the batting component of the game. However, it is focusing on their consistency and accuracy. Throughout the drills, my partner and I will make sure to visit each child whilst they are performing the action, to ensure that they are doing it correctly. However, if they are struggling, then we will help them by showing them the skill again and direct them through the drill step by step. Whereas if a child is finding it easy, then we will adapt it to make it harder. Throughout the drills, my partner and I will speak to each child to ensure that they know what they are doing. We will do this by asking them questions about the drills and what they are improving and how they could apply it to a game situation. Our group will begin at 9 children. However, when putting them into groups, we will ask them to pick a partner each, and from then on out, we will use those pairs as guides. However, we will only use 2s and 3s, or 2 teams. Before the session starts, each drill will be set up to ensure a smooth and quick transaction between each drill. Verbal communication as well as gestures are going to be used throughout the session. However, a whistle might be used because the sun is going to be quite bright. That is going to be used throughout the session. However, a whistle may be used. Because the sun is going to be quite bright that day, Toby and I will ensure that we are stood facing the sun so that the children don't have trouble seeing us. This will also be good when demonstrating certain drills because the children don't have to squint and can see the whole drill properly. For our final main activity, Toby and I plan for the children to take part in a rounders game, where conditions will be in place at the beginning of the game. Toby will introduce the condition that each child will get three goes before swapping over. With this said, if a player hits the ball all 3 times, then they will earn their team an extra rounder. After both teams have had a go, I will then ask the children why they feel as though it links into the aims. After this, I will then change the condition so that when a ball is caught straight after being hit, then the catcher will gain an extra rounder for their team. After each team has batted twice, Toby shall ask similar questions to the ones that I had asked before the first change. He will then go on to explain the instructions for the next condition of the game, which includes awarding a half a rounder when someone is stumped out to try and get them passing more and working as a team. For the final changeover, my partner and I will ask questions on what the children thought was the point of doing that particular condition, and begin to explain the final condition. The final condition includes a hoop which will be placed on the pitch in a reachable distance from the batter. If the batter is then able to hit the ball into the hoop, then they will earn an extra rounder, which puts the accuracy to use. Throughout this main activity, Toby and I will make sure to praise the participants to ensure that they understand whether or not they are doing the right thing and to give them more motivation. Cool down. The three main activities are fairly simple and use the space wisely to ensure that the participants don't become stiff or have DOMs the next day. My partner and I have ensured that they fully stretch out their muscles. Firstly, my partner and I will go through the importance of doing a cool down with the participants by asking them some questions such as, what should you include in a cool down and why do we do it? After ensuring that participants know why they are doing a cool down, I will then lead them through a pulse lower, allowing Toby time to set up ready for the stretches, where he will be leading some static stretches to reduce any stiffness later on. To end the session, we will both ask the children to play a game called Dishes and Domes, which will keep them moving and doing some low-intensity dynamic stretches. After the game, I will ask the children to get as many cones as possible, as many cones and posters as they can, which in turn clears the equipment away to ensure that the children understood the session. We will ask them questions such as, what were the three main aims and why did we do these drills?